Hey everybody, this is Troy over at Uncomfortable Truths. Thanks for checking me out. So today we're talking about Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk because he is upset that Americans are saying that the number one issue that they're worried about right now is immigration. Now, Kyle thinks that this is ridiculous and that people shouldn't actually be worried about it because we have enough resources to take care of all of these other problems. Now, he was responding to a video that Jon Stewart came out with, and Jon Stewart was making a similar argument that we should be taking care of all these immigrants coming across the country. So let's go ahead and hear what Kyle has to say in his own words.
Interject real quick. All the fear mongering is so dumb. There was a study that came out, I want to say about 5 years ago now or so. It was a Cato Institute study. So these are like right-wing people. These are libertarian types. And they found that more crime is committed by native-born Americans compared to not only documented immigrants, but also undocumented immigrants. So undocumented immigrants and documented immigrants both commit crime at a lower rate than native-born American citizens. So all of the fear-mongering over crime, it just statistically, it makes absolutely no sense. Now, if somebody does commit a crime and they are an undocumented immigrant, does it make sense to deport them? Sure. No problem with that at all. But let's not pretend like it's a bigger issue than it actually is. In the overwhelming majority of cases, the people who come in here are just looking for a better life.
All right, so he does go on to talk quite a bit more about the immigration issue, and I urge you guys to check out his full video. I have it in the description below. It's pretty funny, and Jon Stewart's also in it, and they both really do a great job, I think, of articulating their points in this video. Now, one of the issues I have with what Kyle Kulinski is saying here in this bit is that he keeps saying that, well, immigrants actually don't commit as much crime as natural-born citizens. Well, when it comes to legal immigrants, I am sure that that's certainly true. The reason being is they came here legally, and we actually vet people during our process, so we aren't bringing in criminals. So they've been through more of a process than even people who are born in this country. When it comes to illegal immigrants, however, he likes to say that, well, these people also commit less crime. Well, that's not true for a couple of reasons. The first is that they are committing a crime by breaking our immigration laws coming here illegally. Now, I know that people do not like to hear that on the left, but that is a fact. They are coming into our country, breaking our laws, and showing disrespect for our system in doing so. Now, they might be leaving a bad situation, and they might not, but at the end of the day, they still are breaking the law. Additionally, illegal immigrants don't report crimes. They don't report crimes because if they go to the police, they are going to be deported. So they are afraid of actually going to the police and using the law enforcement because they want to stay here. We know that there's issues with drug trafficking, human trafficking, and all sorts of other problems that they are bringing into the country. So when he is just completely dismissive over Americans saying, hey, these are the problems that I'm dealing with, and I want the government to actually do something about it, it really does take away from what I genuinely think is his inclination to be a populist. I might not agree with his policies, but when he says something like, oh, we should have Medicare for all, or we should deal with these problems with Americans, there's quite a bit of overlap where I'm like, okay, maybe I don't agree with this specific policy or that specific policy, but sure, I can work with a guy like Kyle Kulinski who's working in good faith. But when it comes to there being an issue where the American people just simply don't agree with him, such as immigration in this case, he just says, oh, well, they've been fooled by the mainstream media. Well, if you take that same logic and you say, well, it looks like most of the people don't agree with you currently on, say, Medicare for all, for example, just on, pulling something out of the air, then he goes, oh, well, actually, we have a number of people that do agree with it, and we haven't even been out making the case for years. Once we start making the case, they're going to change their stance. Well, sure. But this is just you cherry picking numbers and trying to apply it to whatever your preferred stance is. So the fact is, we actually don't know what the crimes are that the illegal immigrants are committing. The only thing that we know for sure is that 100% of them are committing the crime of coming into our country illegally. Now, we have a limited amount of resources. So he's saying that these problems can all be dealt with. Well, they're not being dealt with. So I live near this town called Roxbury here near Boston in Massachusetts. And the problem that they're having there is that they've shut down the rec center in this area that is mostly full of black and brown people who live in that part of the city. Now, they no longer have a recreation center. If they want to use the gym, they now have to go and pay money out of their own pocket to get a gym membership, despite having already paid for the rec center through their taxes. The reason this is shut down is so that we can house illegal migrants in that recreation center. Similarly, Denver has now reduced the amount of funding that is going to their various issues like their rec center, their DMV. They're cutting hours, and that's going to affect people who work there from getting the hours they need to pay their rent. The reason they're doing this is so that they can continue to fund the illegal immigrants that are coming into the city. So to say that there isn't an issue with these illegal immigrants is just naive and childish. You're not actually addressing the needs that Americans are saying. You can go ahead and say all day that you think the federal government should deal with this and we have lots of room for everybody. And migrants have done a wonderful, job in this country of actually making us a stronger nation. And honestly, I would largely agree with you on these points. I'm not against immigration, but of course there has to be a process, and we have to only allow legal migrants to come into our country, because nobody goes to like Japan, which has a very strict immigration policy, goes there without a job, maybe without knowing the language, and expects to be housed, fed, clothed, and not actually know what is going on in the country, not actually have a job lined out for them, not have housing lined out. Because if you bring all these people in, you are by definition going to raise the cost of goods. You are going to raise the cost of services in the area. We already have a housing crisis. And if you have more people coming in that need housing, well, it's simple supply and demand. What you're going to do is you're going to raise the cost of housing for the people that already live here. Now, these are uncomfortable truths that Kyle Kulinski just isn't dealing with when he talks about the issue of immigration. So I would urge Kyle Kulinski to actually address these problems instead of just wish casting it away and saying, oh, well, that's the federal government's responsibility. They should take care of it. Because it's not unacceptable for people to go ahead and say, well, yeah, I have concerns about this and they're not being dealt with, so I don't want these people coming in. That is a perfectly rational decision for people to come to. And for him to just set that aside, I think goes against his general populist message. And it's something that he actually needs to address if he's going to keep talking about these issues and be intellectually honest about them. So this isn't a thing where I just want to like beat up on Kyle Kulinski, because I do think that his heart is in the right place. And there are a lot of progressives that really genuinely do just want to see immigrants have a better life. But I think at the end of the day, it is the American government's responsibility to take care of American citizens first. And until we actually get our own housing crisis under control, until we get our own homelessness crisis under control, there is no reason for us to accept any illegal immigrants into our country. So everybody, that's what I have on this issue for today. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe. I appreciate the heck out of everybody watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.